You don't have to force yourself to be strong. You just need to sit down and look within like a mirror that doesn't judge. Welcome to Buddhism Seeds. You're not here to escape your emotions. You're here because somewhere inside, there's a part of you still searching for true stillness, the kind that isn't swept away by feelings. You've tried to stay positive. You've taken deep breaths. You've told yourself, I'm fine. But if you were truly fine, why does sadness quietly return each night? Why does that unspoken anger rise again when someone says something familiar? The truth is, emotions are not the problem. The problem lies in how you hold them or how you resist them. Buddhism doesn't ask you to be happy. It doesn't demand that you suppress anger or swallow your tears. On the contrary, more than 2,500 years ago, the Buddha taught, the mind is like a clear mirror. It reflects everything, but holds on to nothing. When you sit still, without judging your anger, without naming your sadness, they begin to dissolve like clouds drifting across the sky of awareness. You don't need to force peace. You only need to stop stirring the water. This teaching doesn't ask you to be numb. It simply invites you to learn something simple yet profound, to reflect without identifying, to see without clinging. And tonight, as you listen, it's not just your ears that are listening, your heart is being touched. The noise within starts to quiet down. The looping thoughts begin to soften. Emotions are no longer storms. They become gentle breezes coming and going, leaving no trace. There is nothing wrong with feeling sad. There is nothing weak about feeling angry. You only need to learn to sit with them as a mirror sits with the light. This is not a lullaby. It's a journey home where you learn to live truthfully with yourself without losing your peace. And if you are gentle enough to sit still, brave enough not to run, and quiet enough not to resist, you will witness something miraculous. Every emotion that comes from outside is guiding you back within. And in that mirror, you don't just see emotion. You begin to see yourself clearly, tenderly, truthfully. Imagine your mind as a mirror, not as a metaphor, but as an actual mirror, clear, silent, and free from choosing what it reflects. Whatever passes before, it is seen as it is a leaf gently falling, a dark cloud slowly drifting by. The mirror sees everything, yet holds on to nothing. Whether the image is beautiful or unpleasant, the mirror doesn't react. It simply knows and lets go. Now, what about your mind? Are you living like a mirror? Or are you collecting everything that comes and calling it me? Many people believe that spiritual practice means becoming emotionless or getting rid of feelings. But that's one of the biggest misunderstandings. The Buddha never taught us to destroy emotions. He taught only one thing: to observe, not to chase after, not to avoid, not to identify, just to see without clinging. A truly practicing person is not someone who never feels sadness or anger, but one who clearly sees when sadness arises, when anger appears, and doesn't call it myself. Emotions can be strong, but if your awareness is stronger, you won't be consumed by them. Try changing the way you speak to yourself. Instead of saying, I am angry, say, this is anger arising. Instead of saying, I am in pain, say, pain is present. The moment you shift that inner language, you move your position from being caught in it to being the one who observes. Buddhism calls this insight into emptiness, seeing that emotions are just phenomena arising from conditions, a word, a memory, an image, a sensation. When causes meet, emotion appears. When causes fade, it disappears. Emotion doesn't exist by itself, and it's not you. So why do you call it me? The teaching of the 5 aggregates form: feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness helps us see deeper. Emotion is not a solid block. It's a process that occurs when the body feels something. Feeling memory identifies it. Perception, mental habits repeat it. Formations and awareness records it. Consciousness. If you look closely, layer by layer, you will see clearly. There is no one at the center of sadness. There is no self being angry. There is only a stream unfolding, and you like a mirror reflecting it. The mirror mind doesn't try to be still. It is still because it does nothing. It doesn't try to be peaceful. It is peaceful because it doesn't stir. That is true freedom when you live among emotions without being entangled by them. When you reflect completely, yet hold on to nothing. You don't need to become someone else. Just see everything as it is, and then let it go the way a mirror releases every image once the light moves on. That is the beginning of freedom. And it's also the beginning of mindfulness. Modern neuroscience now agrees with what the Buddha taught more than 2,500 years ago. The more you resist an emotion, the stronger it becomes. But if you simply see it, without trying to push it away, without analyzing, without labeling its intensity, naturally starts to fade. The brain's natural emotional regulation activates when you stay present with awareness without reaction. Psychology calls this meta-awareness, the ability to observe your own experience as it unfolds. Zen calls it mirror mind. A mirror doesn't choose what to reflect, it simply knows. A mirror-like mind is the same. It doesn't choose emotions, doesn't flee, doesn't grasp. It just sees clearly. And in that clarity, you begin to step out of your old roles. When anger arises, you don't have to cover it with fake positivity. Just pause. Take one conscious breath. Recognize, this is anger. Don't trace back to who caused it. That's where the mind starts storytelling. Don't add thoughts like, they shouldn't treat me this way. Just see the emotion arise and it will pass. The key isn't in erasing emotion, but in not adding a second layer of reaction where pain turns into a cycle of repeated suffering. Look back for a moment. How many times have you felt hurt, not because of what was said, but because of the story your mind told about it? How many times has your sadness come, not from the event itself, but from the interpretation you attach to it? For example, when someone rejects you, just notice I was rejected. Don't add, I'm not good enough. I'm worthless. When someone criticizes you, just notice. This is the sound of dissatisfaction. Don't rush to defend, or you'll be pulled into your own emotional game again. When a sad memory returns instead of running, take a deep breath and whisper within. This is an old film. I don't need to play the role again. Mirror mind is not indifference. It's deep presence. You don't deny any feeling, but you also don't dissolve into it. Each time you pause, observe, and don't react, you're cultivating the inner strength of freedom. This is not a technique. It's a way of living. And it begins with seeing without attachment. In the very moment you do nothing with your emotions, just quietly stay aware, you begin to see clearly that emotions are not your true nature. They come and go, like clouds across the sky. But the sky remains vast, still reflecting, like a mirror, like your mind when it's awake. Imagine your mind as a room filled with light. No darkness can truly remain in a bright room, because when light is present, everything is seen clearly. Emotions are the same. When you are still enough, clear enough, you don't need to chase sadness or anger away. They are seen, and they fade on their own. What causes suffering isn't emotion itself, but the mistaken belief that emotion is you. You've turned your mind into a room cluttered with unprocessed memories, old grudges, unspoken words, and repeated stories. But the mind, in truth, is like a mirror. It reflects all things clearly, then lets them go. The Buddha once said, "Let your mind be like still water. All images appear, but none are held." When you live with that mind, you still feel, but you're not swept away. You don't have to silence emotions. You just need to see them without identifying. The three marks of existence, impermanence, non-self, and dependent arising, apply perfectly to emotions. Impermanence. No feeling lasts forever. The greatest joy fades. The deepest sorrow softens. Non-self. You are not your anger or your fear. They're just processes unfolding. There's no me behind them. Dependent arising emotions arise when conditions come together. A word, a look, a fatigue. You don't create them all. When you understand this, you stop blaming yourself. You step out of the trap of, "I must always be okay," or "I can't be weak." And instead of letting emotions drive you, you start simply seeing them with clarity. To begin living with that mirror mind, practice this simple daily meditation. 1. Sit quietly. Keep your back straight. Relax your shoulders. 2. Close your eyes or gently lower your gaze. 3. Focus on your breath. Don't control it. Just notice it coming and going. 4. When emotions arise, sadness, anger, fear, unease, don't name or analyze them. 5. If the mind starts storytelling, "I feel sad because," smile softly, breathe deeply, and return to the breath. 6. Gently whisper within, "This is an emotion. It comes, and it will go." You don't need long, just the quality of awareness. 5 minutes a day, and each time you reflect instead of react, you loosen one more knot around your heart. You don't need to defeat emotions. You don't need to pretend to be positive. You just need to see clearly and do nothing more. And in that non-doing, emotions calm themselves like waves that settle when the wind stops blowing. Gradually, a new quality blossoms: equanimity. You're no longer easily lifted by praise or crushed by criticism. You don't chase anyone, nor do you avoid anything. You live fully, you feel deeply, but you are not swept away. That is inner freedom. And it begins with one simple way of seeing like a mirror. Many people, when they first hear the word equanimity, often mistake it for indifference, detachment, or lack of emotion. They think that living with equanimity means being cold, uncaring, or disconnected from others. But in Buddhist teaching, upekkha, the Pali term for equanimity, is not emotional numbness. It is inner freedom amidst countless emotions. In Pali, upekkha does not mean withdrawing from life. It is the inner strength that allows you to face joy and sorrow, gain and loss, praise and blame, success and failure without being swept away. It is a kind of groundedness that comes from within. Your heart remains open, soft, and sensitive, but it does not shatter. You still engage with life, but life no longer entangles you. In everyday reality, you constantly face opposites. One day, you are praised, the next day, misunderstood. One moment filled with happiness, the next struck by loneliness. Without the strength of balance, you will sway with every emotional storm like a small leaf caught in the winds of life. A mind without equanimity easily falls into extremes, elated by praise and crushed by criticism. Success leads to pride, failure to self-doubt. These oscillations repeated over time quietly erode your stillness and inner strength. Equanimity is the root that keeps you from drifting. It is the capacity to be fully present with everything without losing yourself, to live in the world yet remain centered, to be with others with a mindful heart, impartial, unattached, neither shrinking nor resisting. In Buddhism, loving kindness, metta, compassion, karuna, sympathetic, joy, mudita, and calm equanimity, upekkha, are called the four immeasurable states, the four boundless qualities of an awakened heart. Metta, the wish for others to be happy. Karuna, the wish for them to be free from suffering. Mudita, joy in the happiness of others. Upekkha, calm balance toward all things free from attachment or bias. But here lies a subtle truth. The first three can only remain pure when rooted in equanimity. Loving kindness without equanimity can turn into attachment. Compassion without equanimity can become pity or emotional exhaustion. Joy without equanimity can easily slip into envy. So, equanimity is not coldness, it is freedom and awareness within love. It is love without control, without demand, without fear of loss. A tender heart grounded deeply in stillness. From that place, true compassion blossoms. In the meditative tradition, upekkha does not mean sitting still like a lifeless piece of wood. It is a dynamic awareness. You live fully in a moving world, yet remain unmoved inside. You are present, you feel deeply, yet you are not carried away. I often compare equanimity to a bamboo tree. The bamboo doesn't resist the wind. When the wind blows, it bends gently, and when the wind passes, it returns upright. It doesn't break. It doesn't fight. That is the strength of a heart that has learned to let go without falling apart. You can still love, care, and give your best to people and things, but emotions no longer rule your mind. That is the sign of mature equanimity. Equanimity cannot arise if you still cling to a fixed sense of self. When someone praises you, you cling to the feeling of I am great. When someone criticizes you, you feel I am hurt. From there, turmoil begins. But when you reflect deeply on non-self, anatta, seeing that the so-called I is just a temporary process of body and mind, you begin to loosen your attachment to others' words and actions. When you contemplate impermanence, anicca, you see that gain and loss, praise and blame, coming and going, all are constantly changing. The mind no longer wants to cling to any of it. When you understand emptiness, sunnata, realizing that emotions and phenomena arise from countless conditions, you stop seeing yourself as the center of every storm. You begin to let go without resistance. Someone once asked a Zen master, If I truly have equanimity, does that mean I won't care about anyone anymore? The master smiled and said, "No. You still care, but without attachment. You still love, but without fear of losing. You still help, but without needing recognition." Equanimity is not leaving the world. It is living deeply within it with a heart unbound. You can care for your loved ones wholeheartedly, but if they choose a different path, you can still smile. That is equanimity. You can give your best to your work, but when results don't meet expectations, you don't collapse. That is equanimity. You can listen to someone's pain without being carried away by their emotions. That is equanimity. Equanimity is not passive. It is conscious participation in life. It is the foundation that allows you to live, love, and act without losing yourself. In modern psychology, there is a term close to upekkha, non-reactive presence. It is not apathy nor suppression of emotions. It is the ability to sit with your feelings, to observe them, come and go, without immediate reaction or identification. When you practice this, your nervous system begins to regulate itself. The amygdala, the brain's emotional response center, no longer dominates your behavior. You start to respond from awareness rather than react from instinct. That is why many therapists see equanimity as the foundation of healing. Without equanimity, you repeat old patterns. With equanimity, you begin to see clearly what is truly happening within you and around you. So how can you cultivate equanimity in daily life? Here are taught 3 stages of practice. Stage 1. Recognize the agitation. When you feel misunderstood, rejected, or when others don't follow your wishes, instead of reacting, pause and simply note, the mind is unsettled. No need to fix it. No need to suppress. Just see it. Stage 2, then pause before reacting. Take a deep exhale or count slowly to 5. That exhale is your moment of awareness, the first doorway to equanimity. Stage 3. Shift your perspective. Ask yourself quietly, how long will this feeling last? From what level of understanding is this person acting? Am I attaching my self-worth to this situation? These 3 questions are keys that bring you back to your center. You can apply this practice anywhere, when you're misunderstood and not given a chance to explain. When you've given your best, but no one recognizes it. When you love sincerely, but that love isn't returned. When you must work with difficult people. When you lose an opportunity despite great effort. In all these situations, without equanimity, you easily shatter. But with equanimity, you become like water, and water can never be cut by a knife. Equanimity is not about erasing emotion. It is learning not to react blindly. It's the ability to hold yourself for one breath and then move forward with steadiness. As the Buddha taught, when the mind rests in equanimity, you don't need to avoid life. You move through it with an open heart, but not tangled. With clear wisdom, but not coldness. With full presence, but without attachment. Equanimity is not just a word, it is a quiet freedom you can carry each day. You can begin cultivating it with just 5 minutes a day. Sit quietly back straight, body relaxed. Follow your breath, especially the exhale, as if laying down your mind with each out-breath. Name the state present in your heart, feeling a little sad, a bit anxious, slightly tense. Whisper inwardly, "And this too shall pass." Add a gentle reminder, "I can feel this," without being carried away. End with a soft smile and a deep, slow breath. Practice this short meditation daily. Gradually, you'll notice you're no longer swept up by emotions as before. In relationships at work or in moments of disappointment, you'll find a quiet space inside that nothing can touch. No one ever taught us how to stay steady when the world shifts, but upekkha, equanimity, is one of the Buddha's most profound teachings on remaining firm in life's storms. Equanimity doesn't make you emotionless. It helps you love wisely, help others appropriately, and live fully without attachment. When your mind is grounded in equanimity, you will no longer be shaken by praise or blame, no longer need to win every argument, no longer insist on being right in every story, no longer suffer long over short events. Instead, you step back, see clearly, and smile. Not because you don't care, but because you understand. You're no longer pulled into the whirlpools of life because you've found an anchor within. And then you begin to see something deeply true. Suffering doesn't come from circumstances themselves, but from the way you react to them. Ask yourself, why do you stay upset for days over a few words spoken in seconds? Why can others face loss and move on while you remain trapped in it? Not because they are stronger, but because they have learned to let go. They possess a gentle strength, not hard resistance. They let emotions pass like wind over a still lake without stirring its depths, and you can too. Just begin with presence, gently, consistently, without judgment, because sometimes silence itself is the doorway back to true freedom. Try to recall a moment when someone hurt you. Maybe it was a careless comment, a distant look, or an unexpected action that left you heartbroken. The event itself may have lasted only a minute, but the question is, how many times have you replayed it in your mind? For a day, a week, or perhaps even now it still hasn't left you. That's what causes long suffering. Not the event, but the memory of it, replayed over and over. And each time you replay it, you add another layer, an emotion, a judgment, a bit of anger, a story that isn't even real. In Buddhist teaching, this is called the two arrows. The Buddha taught that the first arrow is the pain of life when you lose someone you love, when you're betrayed, when you fail, when illness strikes. That pain is unavoidable because being human means touching impermanence. But there's a second arrow, not from the outside, but from within the one you shoot yourself. And it often hurts far more. It's when you not only feel sad about what happened, but also start blaming yourself, resenting others, and spinning an emotional storm around the event. The actual pain has already passed, yet in your mind it continues, because you keep holding on to it, feeding it with thoughts and reactions. This isn't abstract philosophy. It's something you live every day if you pay attention. According to the 12 links of dependent origination, the second arrow arises from ignorance, not seeing the true nature of emotions. When we encounter an experience, contact, a pleasant or unpleasant feeling arises, feeling. If there is no mindfulness, we instantly react, clinging to what we like, resisting what we don't. From there come craving, grasping, becoming, and eventually suffering. Put simply, the first pain is just a rain shower, but you create a storm because you resist the rain, curse the sky, and imagine you'll be drenched forever. Here are some familiar examples. You're broken up with. First arrow, the feeling of loss and emptiness. Second arrow, I'm not good enough. I'm unworthy of love. I'll never find anyone again. You're criticized by your boss in front of others. First arrow, embarrassment, discomfort. Second arrow, I'm a failure. I can't do anything right. Everyone must be looking down on me. You make a mistake while speaking in public. First arrow, the sting of shame. Second arrow, I can never speak again. I'm stupid. I have no value. Do you see? The first arrow is immediate and real. It arises and it fades. But the second arrow is the story you build, the prison you lock yourself in. You don't just suffer from what happened, you suffer from the retelling of it again and again. The truth is, you cannot avoid the first arrow, but you can avoid the second one. How? Through mindfulness. By recognizing your emotions without identifying with them. When you tell yourself, I'm feeling angry, instead of, I am an angry person, you separate yourself from the emotion. You stop being merged with it, and the second arrow loses its target. This practice takes time, repetition, and compassion toward yourself. But if you stay consistent, you'll notice the burden lifting little by little. Each time you observe instead of react, you disarm one more arrow in your own hand. And that's where healing begins. Not by avoiding emotions, but by seeing them clearly without turning them into me. Modern psychology has a term for what Buddhism calls the second arrow. It's called rumination. It's the mental habit of replaying a negative event again and again, attaching self-destructive thoughts like, I'm so stupid, they must hate me, or I deserve this. Research shows that rumination is one of the main causes of depression, anxiety, and insomnia. It erodes self-confidence and clouds your decision-making. Biologically, when you're emotionally hurt, the brain leaves a kind of psychological scratch. And if you keep scratching it by replaying, analyzing, or blaming, that scratch deepens into a wound that's hard to heal. So how do you drop the second arrow? You don't need to do anything grand. Just notice. Notice when your mind is retelling that story for the 5th time. Notice when you're adding labels like, I'm a failure. They don't respect me. Then gently whisper inside, this is the second arrow. I don't need to shoot another. In that moment of recognition, you step outside the reaction, and that's the first step to freedom. This practice isn't difficult, but it requires mindfulness. Next time you feel your mind starting to replay an old pain, slow your breath, place a hand on your heart, and say, I'm being pulled by the second arrow. I choose to stop. It may sound small, but each time you do this, you save yourself from adding more pain, because suffering doesn't always come from what happened. It comes from how you keep telling it. And you can stop that right now. Whenever you feel hurt, instead of avoiding or distracting yourself, try this short mindfulness practice. It's not to erase emotions, but to see them clearly, so you no longer shoot more arrows at yourself. Step 1. Recall the event that hurt you, a word that stung, an action that disappointed you, a gesture that made you feel excluded. Step 2. Ask yourself, what's the fact? What is the first arrow, the real event? Maybe it was a message, a look, a comment. Step 3. Write down your thoughts. You may notice things like, they don't respect me, I'm not good enough, I shouldn't trust anyone again. Then ask, how much of this is true? How much is interpretation? How much comes from old, unhealed pain? Step 4. Inhale slowly, know you're breathing in. Exhale deeply, know you're letting go. Your breath is not just air, it's the rope that pulls you back to the present. Step 5. Whisper inside, I don't need another arrow. Just breathe. Practice this for 5 quiet minutes each day. Gradually, you'll learn to tell apart real pain from the pain you unconsciously create, the pain kept alive by memory, judgment, and imagination. Because the Buddha never taught us to avoid suffering. He taught us to see it clearly. And to see clearly, you need 3 foundations. Right mindfulness, sati. Noticing what you feel in body and mind without avoidance or judgment. Right view, samadhi. Understanding that emotions arise from conditions, not from a fixed self. Right thought, sammasankappa. Instead of labeling look with kindness, gently and compassionately, the more you practice these, the less you fall into the trap of the second arrow. Why do we keep shooting it anyway? Because deep down, we believe if I stay angry long enough, they'll realize their mistake. If I hurt enough, they'll come back. If I blame myself, I'll grow wiser. But no pain doesn't make anyone more enlightened. Only awareness does. Self-blame isn't repentance, it's punishment. Replaying the past isn't understanding, it's attachment. Repeating the same story isn't learning, it's self-imprisonment. And you deserve freedom from all of it through your breath, mindfulness, and clear seeing. Not tomorrow, but in this very moment. Each time you feel pain from something long past, a word, a memory, an unresolved reaction, pause, turn inward, and ask yourself 3 questions. Am I in the first arrow, or have I already shot the second? Am I retelling this story more than necessary? Can I choose to breathe instead of interpret right now? These 3 questions are like small lanterns lighting up the dark corners of your mind where you're stuck. They don't need loud answers, only honesty. When you dare to look directly, you begin stepping out of the suffering you've been repeating. Because none of us can avoid the first arrow, disappointment, separation, misunderstanding, pain. They are part of life. But the second arrow, the way we extend pain through imagination, judgment, and automatic reaction, can stop. And that stopping is the beginning of freedom. You don't have to be perfect to be at peace. You just need enough awareness to recognize, I'm adding to my pain. And then instead of continuing the story, you breathe. Instead of clinging to the old script, you step back and see yourself clearly. Liberation doesn't come from changing others to fit your expectations. It comes from no longer repeating the reactions that make you suffer. And when your heart is no longer pierced by invisible arrows, you begin to see the true structure of suffering, how it's formed, fed, and sustained. Because the Buddha didn't just teach us to notice pain. He taught us to understand its roots, so that we don't just know that we suffer, but why we suffer. To go further on that journey, you'll need a map, not of the outer world, but of the inner one, the landscape of the mind, where emotions arise, transform, and shape your daily choices. We'll now look deeply into that map, the hidden structure of the mind that governs all emotions. That map in the Buddha's teaching is called the 5 aggregates skandhas. We often say, I'm angry, I'm sad, or I'm happy, as if these emotions are inseparable parts of who we are, as if there were a solid I standing behind them, owning or controlling every experience. But in the light of the Buddha's teaching, that I has never been a fixed entity. Everything you experience, from a fleeting glance, a vague thought, to an intense surge of emotion, is a continuous process of arising and passing away. None of it belongs to any permanent self. Buddhism calls this process the 5 aggregates, skandhas, 5 groups of elements that make up the body-mind experience of a human being. Form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. This is not abstract theory, but a profound map for understanding how emotions actually operate in your daily life. Form rupa is the physical body, the sensory organs such as eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Everything you see, hear, smell, taste, and touch belongs to form. Next is feeling vedana, the sensations that arise when you make contact with something. A word can make you feel pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Perception, sana, is the process of recognition and labeling. For example, when you see someone and immediately remember, this is the person who hurt me. Mental formations, sankhara, are the psychological reactions, intentions, and habitual patterns mostly shaped by past karma and conditioning. And finally, consciousness vijnana is the awareness, the knowing that observes all the other aggregates as they arise and fade. When you understand the 5 aggregates, you no longer simply say, I'm angry. Instead, you begin to see clearly. The body heats up. Form. There's tightness in the chest. Feeling. The mind labels that person is wrong. Perception. A desire to retaliate arises. Mental formation. And all of this is being observed by awareness. Consciousness. This understanding doesn't make you indifferent to emotions. It gives you the space not to be swept away. You stop identifying yourself as the emotion. You simply see it arise and unfold through causes and conditions. From that clear, seeing a path of freedom begins. You don't reject emotions, you just stop being deceived by them. You are no longer a victim of anger, sadness, or fear. You become the wise observer, illuminated by truth. Imagine you're in a tense meeting that's still keeping its professional surface. Suddenly, a colleague stands up and criticizes you sharply in front of everyone. What's really happening inside you at that moment? First comes form. You hear the sound of their words, see their eyes and gestures, feel your skin flush and your heart race. This is your body directly interacting with the environment. Next is feeling. Discomfort arises instantly, irritation, hurt, or a knot in the stomach. You didn't choose it. It appeared naturally as a response. Then comes perception. The mind labels and interprets. They're humiliating me. I'm being disrespected. These thoughts amplify the feeling, turning an event into a personal story. After that arises mental formation. The wave of reaction, the impulse to argue, defend, or withdraw. This is where your old habits and karmic tendencies speak loudly. Finally comes consciousness. Awareness itself. If mindfulness is present, you'll see clearly anger is arising. I'm getting pulled in. Without mindfulness, awareness is still there, but you've already been swept away by the other aggregates. These 5 processes happen almost simultaneously. If you don't see them, you believe I am the one being attacked. But in truth, only 5 dynamic processes are arising, persisting, and fading. There is no fixed I. And from that realization, you begin to step out of reaction and into freedom. Modern psychology reaches a similar conclusion. The human self is not a solid entity, but a collection of continuously changing processes. Models like emotional intelligence, multi-layered consciousness, and neurobiological response all show that every emotion is built from multiple layers: bodily sensations, cognitive labeling, learned reactions, and the presence or absence of awareness. The more you can observe and separate these layers, the less power emotions have over you. This is exactly what the Buddha taught 2,600 years ago: to contemplate the 5 aggregates and see non-self. When you don't see this process clearly, it's easy to mistake yourself for your emotions. Someone makes you angry, and you immediately think, I'm angry. That simple phrase seems harmless, but it becomes the root of deeper identification. I'm a hot-tempered person. I can't control my emotions. I'm unlovable. I have problems. From a fleeting feeling, you construct a fixed identity and carry it like an invisible sentence. That is the root of suffering. When you believe I am the anger or I am the sadness, you lose the space to observe or transform. You become what you experience. But if you see clearly that anger is simply a chain of arising and fading processes, you're no longer bound by it. You are not the angry one, you are the awareness witnessing a process that does not define you. You don't need to be a scholar to understand the 5 aggregates. You just need a bit of stillness and observation in daily life. Each time an emotion arises, note it step by step. When you're angry, you feel heat in the body, that's form. Discomfort spreads, that's feeling. The thought appears, they're disrespecting me, that's perception. The urge to respond or argue arises, that's mental formation. If you're mindful, you realize anger is present, that's consciousness. Simply seeing each layer prevents you from being swept away. You don't need to fight the emotion, only stop merging with it. When you're happy, you feel lightness in your chest, your face relaxes, form. A pleasant, satisfying feeling arises, feeling. The thought, things are going well, perception. The wish to share or express joy, mental formation. The awareness, happiness is here, consciousness. Even joy can lead to attachment if unobserved. Happiness seems positive, but clinging to it leads to craving and disappointment when it fades. That's why even joy must be seen through the lens of calm awareness. Each time you practice in this way, you step outside the boundaries of emotional identity. You are no longer the victim of moods, you are the one who sees clearly. And from that clarity, a new kind of freedom emerges, gentle but powerful. In the Wild Diamond Sutra, the Buddha taught all phenomena that have form are illusions. This short line holds one of the deepest truths of Buddhism. Everything you see, touch, feel, and think has no permanent essence. All things arise from conditions, and when those conditions dissolve, they vanish. Even the five aggregates, the foundation of all human experience, are temporary combinations of causes. There is no real I behind them to control, possess, or suffer. To see this truth is to open the gate to non-self. And non-self is the foundation of liberation. When you recognize the five aggregates operating in every breath and every reaction, emotions no longer frighten you. You don't have to suppress them, nor do you have to let them rule you. You live among form feeling, perception formation, and consciousness, yet maintain a quiet distance inside, seeing them as waves moving across the surface of a lake. The mind becomes peaceful, not because the waves stop, but because you know you are not the waves. Next time you feel hurt, instead of asking, "Why did they do that to me?" pause and ask more deeply, "What is my body feeling?" Form. What sensation is present? Feeling. What am I labeling or projecting onto them? Perception. What habitual reaction is arising? Formation. Am I observing this with mindfulness? Consciousness. Each question is a doorway leading you deeper into yourself. They help you see the structure of suffering instead of drowning in emotion. Like someone lost in a forest, but holding a map, you're still in the forest, but you know the way out. And with this inner map, you no longer panic. If you want to experience this directly, try reflecting on the five aggregates for 3 minutes each day. Step 1. Sit quietly, close your eyes, breathe naturally. Step 2. Notice your body. Where do you feel the strongest sensation? Warm, cold, tense, or soft form? Step 3. Is the feeling pleasant or unpleasant? Feeling. Step 4. What thought is arising right now? Perception. Step 5. What intention, reaction, or tendency is forming? Formation. Step 6. Simply observe the whole process. No interference. No judgment. Consciousness. This meditation takes only a few minutes, but with steady practice, you'll start to see your inner world as a flowing stream, not a fixed self. Emotions come and go. Thoughts come and go. Even the body changes every day. And in the midst of these changes, you realize something simple yet profound. There is nothing you need to hold on to in order to be at peace. When the mind understands this, it no longer tries to become someone else. It simply reflects life as a clear mirror, seeing everything but clinging to nothing. And within that clarity, freedom reveals itself. Understanding the five aggregates helps you see that you are not your emotions, and you don't need to run from them either. You can live within life itself without being lost in the fog of illusion. When you practice seeing form, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness clearly, you become the one driving your inner vehicle, instead of being dragged behind it. And when you truly see this structure, you discover something even more essential. Suffering doesn't arise because you feel. It arises because you cling to what you feel. There's a question often heard in meditation retreats or deep Dharma conversations. How do I know if I'm loving with compassion or with attachment? And each time the Zen teacher gives the same gentle but piercing answer. When love feels light, it's compassion. When love feels heavy, it's attachment. In Buddhism, letting go doesn't mean indifference, coldness, or withdrawal from life. Letting go doesn't mean abandoning the one you love. It's an act of wisdom the moment you realize that clinging doesn't deepen love. It only increases control, fear, and suffering. At first, love is pure energy. We simply wish for the other's happiness, whether we are part of it or not. But without mindfulness, that love easily turns into illusion. They must stay with me. They must never change. I need them to feel worthy. From there, love begins to change its nature. Love becomes need. Need turns into attachment. Attachment breeds expectation control, and finally, fear of loss. Attachment is when we bind another person with our silent expectations, and at the same time, we tie ourselves to an unspoken insecurity. In the Paro, 4 immeasurables. The Buddha taught that loving kindness, metta compassion, karuna, joy mudita, and equanimity upekkha must go together. Love without equanimity eventually becomes bondage. Only when you can love without owning care, without controlling, and be present without demanding, that's when you truly love with an awakened heart. The Buddha called this compassion with wisdom, karuna panya. Not the love born of instinct reaction or fear of loss, but the love of someone who sees clearly the impermanence, selflessness, and interdependence of all relationships. You love someone, but you also understand everything comes and goes by its conditions. You don't cling because you've realized holding tighter doesn't help you keep anything. Letting go at the right moment is the deepest way to love. In Buddhist practice, letting go doesn't mean cutting connection, turning away, or giving up responsibility. It's not coldness or resignation. Letting go is a way of seeing an inner attitude, a quiet but profound transformation. You don't have to stop caring to let go. You can still love, help, and listen, but you no longer need to control the outcome. You allow others to be themselves. You allow life to unfold as it is not as you wish it to be. Letting go is when you no longer force others to change just to make yourself comfortable. You stop believing your way of loving is the only right way. You stop building safety by controlling another's emotions or behavior. You stop playing the role of the savior. And you stop expecting your kindness to be returned before you feel worthy. Letting go is not about action, it's about perception. It's the ability to see people and situations without projecting your personal expectations onto them. You can begin practicing letting go through 3 simple steps. Step 1. See your expectations. Whenever someone upsets you, pause and ask, what am I expecting from them? If they never change, can I still love them? This question helps separate love from conditions. Step 2. Return to yourself. Instead of waiting for others to make you whole, ask, what do I need from myself so I don't depend on them? This is when love begins to mature from loving to have into loving to give. Step 3. Allow the other to be themselves. The one you love is also an independent life, sometimes right, sometimes wrong, sometimes close, sometimes distant. Letting go means accepting that they may change, and you can still love them without needing any promise. Letting go doesn't make you lose someone, it helps you keep yourself. When you love with attachment, love slowly becomes a shadow of itself. You start thinking for the other person, worrying about every small change, and clinging to the image of who you want them to be. They live in your mind all day, not as joy, but as a storm of thought. You grow tired when they don't meet your expectations. And out of the fear of losing them, your so-called loving actions become control grasping and anxiety. True love doesn't need possession. To love is not to own. To care is not to hold tightly, but to be present, whole, and free. Letting go doesn't mean you must leave someone. It means you stop loving in ways that cause pain. You stop expecting them to be your source of happiness. You release the illusion that only if they change will you be at peace. Letting go with wisdom is not weakness. It's clarity in action. You shouldn't let go, if all. You haven't yet seen what you're actually clinging to. You're using letting go as an excuse to avoid your true feelings. You're letting go out of hurt or disappointment, not out of insight into attachment. Mindful letting go is an active choice. It comes from strength, from the clear understanding that love does not equal clinging. A relationship doesn't have to be suffocating to prove connection. Letting go means no longer making your emotional state depend entirely on another person's actions. You can practice letting go with this short daily meditation. Sit quietly, relax your body. Close your eyes and follow your breath gently. As you inhale, ask yourself, what am I holding that makes my heart heavy? As you exhale, whisper silently, I release this so both of us may be light. Repeat for about 5 minutes. Then bring to mind someone you love without expectation or condition. Simply wish them freedom. That is the first step toward true love. Compassion without attachment. Love that doesn't demand control or confine. A love that can stand firmly in the world without making anyone lose their breath. And above all, a love that doesn't make you lose yourself. The Buddha once said, "Love is not the cause of suffering. Attachment is." That short but piercing truth reveals one of humanity's deepest misunderstandings about love. The problem isn't that we love, it's how we hold on to love as if it were ours to own. You can live in a family full of love without being lost in your roles. You can help others with all your kindness without expecting gratitude. You can love someone deeply and still let them be free. You can meet the world with compassion even when it's imperfect. That's the sign of a mature heart where love is no longer ruled by fear or expectation, When you truly love someone, you don't want them to belong to you, you want them to be free. And when someone truly loves you, they don't try to keep you close with strings, but with the stillness of their heart. Letting go in Buddhism does not remove love. It removes the layers of fear, possession, and expectation that cover it. Letting go is when you pause, look deeply, and realize what you've been clinging to isn't the person, it's the fear of losing them. Once that fear is released, love returns to its original form, warm, spacious, and free. When you can let go and still love you, step into a deeper level of awakening. Then love is no longer the cause of suffering. It becomes a force of healing. It helps you see the true nature of all relationships coming and going, meeting and parting all by conditions. You love without needing to hold, without demanding, without fear. And in that very moment, you are the one most fully loved. Yet people still ask, I understand letting go is good, but why do I keep repeating the same feelings? Why do I keep getting attached to the same kind of person, situation, or wound, even when I know it hurts? The answer lies in a subtle truth the Buddha called samsara. Many think rebirth happens only after death, but samsara happens here and now. It's the rebirth of emotion when an old wound keeps reliving itself in the mind. Each time you repeat an old reaction, you are reborn into the same suffering, just in a new form. Seeing this is the beginning of liberation, because only when you recognize the cycle can you step out of it. And from that moment, the love within you begins to turn into light. No longer a chain, but illumination. When people talk about rebirth, most imagine a soul dying and then being born again in another life. But there's another kind of rebirth, subtler, quieter, that happens every single day right inside your mind. It's inner samsara, the cycle of emotional rebirth. Each time you react in the same old way, getting angry in the same pattern, worrying in the same habit, hoping the same way, feeling hurt through the same familiar loop, you're being reborn into another round of samsara. You don't have to wait until the next lifetime. You've already lived through hundreds of mini lives in this very existence. In its original Sanskrit meaning, samsara means the cycle, the endless round of arising, existing, changing, and fading, a chain of emotions and reactions that never stops. When an emotion arises, it triggers an action. That action brings a result. The result creates another emotion. And so you drift through your own cycle thinking you're living, but mostly just repeating. For example, you get angry. Anger makes you say something harsh. Those words cause hurt. Hurt gives birth to anxiety. Then you begin blaming yourself, fearing misunderstanding, and getting angry again because no one seems to understand you. And just like that, the cycle restarts. You don't need to reincarnate into another world. You only need to sit still for 5 minutes to witness countless emotional lives arising and dissolving right inside you. Inner samsara usually starts from 4 basic links. 1. Contact phassa. A small external stimulus, a glance, a comment, a facial expression, an unexpected message. 2. Feeling vedana. An immediate sensation arises, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. 3. Mental formation, sankhara. The automatic reaction, a tensing up. A thought to argue the impulse to walk away or to hold on. 4. Perception Nana. The imagination adds its story. They're looking down on me. I've been abandoned. I have to prove myself. And finally comes consciousness Vijnana, awareness itself. But without mindfulness, even awareness gets pulled in. You're no longer the one who sees you become the victim of the emotional process you never saw clearly. The suffering doesn't lie in the event, it lies in the repetition of ignorance. The exhaustion doesn't come from the emotion itself, it comes from believing the emotion is you, reacting on autopilot, regretting and repeating. But if you can pause, if you place just one breath between contact and reaction, between feeling and response, you've just broken a cycle of samsara. And in that instant, you've died to an old reflex and been reborn into a more awakened way of living. You can't avoid samsara, but you can see it operating and not be carried away. Only when you begin to see these loops can you start to step out of them, not by suppressing emotions, but by recognizing clearly. This is just a cycle. It's not me. If you truly seek liberation, don't wait for teachings about the afterlife. Look directly at how you are living right now. True freedom begins in a single moment. Stop and see clearly. You walk into a room. A colleague throws out a sarcastic remark. You hear it. Contact. Your chest tightens. Feeling. The urge to react or to stay silent arises. Formation. Then the mind repeats its old stories. They don't respect me. They must hate me. I'm worthless. Perception. A few seconds later, you behave differently toward that person, as if they were a threat. Or you go quiet, shrink into yourself, feeling small. And the feeling doesn't fade, it repeats. It follows you home. It makes your evening heavy. Sometimes it lingers for a week, all because of one short sentence. You've just entered a new emotional lifetime. You didn't need to wait for the next life. The moment you let an old emotion take over, you've already been reborn into samsara. Why do we keep repeating ourselves so much? Because the mind clings to familiar emotions as if they were safe ground. Even when they hurt, they're familiar. And the familiar often feels safer than the unknown. Some people are so used to rejection that if they're not rejected, they feel lost. Some are so used to anger as self-protection that without anger, they feel weak. Over time, emotions stop being just emotions. They become identity. They become, this is who I am. And so samsara repeats, not because life is cruel, but because the mind fears leaving the suffering it knows. But liberation isn't far away. You only need to stop reacting the old way and stay mindful in the new moment. When you're about to get angry and you see that you're about to get angry, the anger is already illuminated. When you're about to fall into self-blame and you notice the mind is sinking again, you've already stood up from it. You don't need to destroy emotions. You don't need to erase what lives within you. You only need to stand still and see. And in that seeing, samsara hesitates. A loop of suffering unravels as lightly as an exhale. You don't have to wait for distant enlightenment. It begins the moment you pause. There's a simple yet powerful practice you can do for 5 minutes each day. Sit quietly. Breathe naturally. When an emotion appears, don't rush to name it. Don't try to analyze where it came from or why it's here. Just whisper inwardly, "This emotion is present." That's enough. The emotion will try to pull you into a familiar story, maybe a memory, a person, or a painful scenario from the past. But instead of drifting into it as usual, just stay with your breath like a gatekeeper watching the emotion pass by without opening the door of identification. Don't follow it. Don't fight it. Just see. With consistent practice, you'll realize emotions have a much shorter lifespan than you thought. They aren't as solid as you believed. What prolongs them isn't the emotion itself, but the repeated reaction and interpretation from the mind. This is the first step in breaking inner samsara, the cycle of emotion and reaction. In Buddhist teachings, transformation begins with 3 foundations. Right view, samadhi. Seeing that emotions are not me. They are phenomena, not personal identity. Right mindfulness, samasati. Recognizing emotions the moment they arise before they take control. Right effort, samavayama. Gently returning to the breath, returning to awareness, no matter how many times you've been carried away. Transformation doesn't come from extreme effort. It comes from gentle, consistent seeing. Just keep returning. Just keep noticing. And each time you stop reacting in the old pattern, samsara loses its power to continue. I once met a man who always grew angry when rejected. Each time someone turned him down even slightly, he'd react sharply, his voice hard, his eyes cold, his heart closed. Then came regret, followed by another round of anger when it happened again. Until one day, in a flash of awareness, he saw clearly. This is that familiar feeling, not the truth of now. And that moment, the moment of recognizing a recurring emotion instead of becoming it, opened his first door to liberation. You can do the same. Just breathe. Just see. Just whisper inwardly, "I am feeling this, but I am not this feeling." And little by little, you'll step out of the inner samsara that has bound you for so long. You'll know you're stepping out of samsara not when you become emotionless, but when a familiar feeling arises and you see it clearly without reacting the same way. When a situation repeats a criticism, a cold glance, a moment of rejection, but you no longer need to get angry, respond, or conclude anything, you're standing somewhere new. When you no longer need to win a conversation, to prove who's right or wrong, or to be understood in order to feel at peace, you've released another layer of attachment. When you can look at someone who once hurt you without replaying the story, without needing to be the victim or the betrayed, and simply see a human being moving through their own karma, you're walking out of samsara. When a wave of anxiety passes through your mind and you let it go without analysis or avoidance, you're living in the nirvana of the present, free from the samsara of the past. You don't need to wait for another life to be free. Freedom begins the moment you see clearly. Oh, I'm about to react like I always do. And you choose to stop. Even 1 second of such stopping is a step out. Each time you pause like that, you step out of an old version of yourself. You drop a reaction that once ruled you. You open inner space to breathe deeper, understand clearer, and live truer. That is liberation, gradual, real, and alive. But someone may ask, if emotions keep coming back, how can I truly let them go? Will I always carry some anger, sadness, or fear that never ends? That question takes us deeper into meditation. Do emotions truly exist? Is there a solid core inside them? Or are they simply made of many conditions arising from causes dependent on factors and fading when those conditions dissolve? You don't need to push emotions away. Just be still enough to see how they're formed, and that seeing will weaken their power. There is no "I am an angry person." There is only anger present, and it will pass. There is no "I am an anxious person." There is only a wave of anxiety rising, and it will fall. As long as you stop identifying with emotions, you are already stepping out of samsara. And that single moment, though small, carries the power of profound transformation. Ask yourself a very simple question. Where is my anger? What shape does it have? What color is it? Does it have clear boundaries? A solid core inside? When you pause long enough to observe, you'll notice something strange. Anger is real, but it cannot be grasped. It tightens your body, sharpens your words, alters your eyes. Yet if you try to find it as a tangible object, you can't. Anger never stays still. It comes, it changes, it fades. You can't freeze it or hold it up for analysis like a thing in your hand. And that's exactly what the Buddha pointed to. Emotions have no fixed essence. In the teaching of shunyata, emptiness, especially in the Mahayana tradition, emptiness doesn't mean hollow or meaningless. It means nothing exists by itself, independently or unchangingly. Take the rain, for example. You can't say that rain exists on its own. It arises from countless conditions: humidity, vapor, wind, temperature, pressure. If one of those conditions is missing, there's no rain. The same is true with your anger. It doesn't exist independently. It's a collection of conditions. Your body is tired. Someone triggers an old memory. You carry an unconscious belief that you're being disrespected. Or maybe you're already anxious about something else. If any one of those conditions is absent, anger cannot form. It doesn't have a permanent presence nor an unchanging truth. It's not you. When you truly see this, not just intellectually, but in the moment you're actually angry, something begins to loosen. You stop labeling yourself as an angry person or someone too sensitive. Instead, you see clearly. There is a process unfolding, and I am observing it. I don't have to become it. That insight, non-judging and non-identifying, is the beginning of inner freedom. You don't have to suppress anger. You only need to see its dependent, selfless, impermanent nature. Once that seeing is stable, every other emotion, anxiety, sadness, hurt, doubt, appears like waves on the ocean. They can be big, they can be strong, but no wave represents the nature of the sea. And you, the observer, are sitting on the shore watching movement without being swept away. Someone who doesn't understand emptiness thinks, "This anger is me. This sadness is me. I have to get rid of it right now." And when they can't escape it, they start reacting, resisting, suppressing, avoiding, or collapsing. But when you see the interdependent nature of emotion, that it only arises when conditions meet, you stop trying to control it. You begin to let emotions come and go like clouds passing through the sky or ripples moving across a lake. You can still feel deeply, but without drowning. You can still love openly, but without clinging. You can be sad, but not defined by sadness. You can be angry, but not act from that anger. That mindful distance, that space between awareness and reaction, is true freedom. Not numbness, but lucidity in the midst of emotion. Modern neuroscience now confirms what the Buddha taught thousands of years ago. Emotions are a combination of biological responses, memories, mental labeling, and environmental conditions. No emotion is your true nature. This means you're not a short-tempered person. You just repeat a familiar pattern. You're not weak. You just haven't built an inner refuge yet. When you see that clearly, self-forgiveness becomes easier. You stop defining yourself with old labels. I'm always angry. I'm too fragile. I can't control myself. You no longer need to fix your emotions. You only need to understand them, watch them, and let them dissolve on their own, because your true nature has never been anger, sadness, or fear. You are the one who sees all of them quietly, clearly, unwaveringly. Let's say you're feeling sad. Your usual impulse might be to find a way to stop feeling sad. But instead of running away from the emotion, try this deeper approach, a path to genuine self-understanding. And step 1, sit still. No advanced meditation needed. Just breathe gently and relax your body. Step 2, ask yourself, where does this sadness live in my body? Maybe a heaviness in the chest, a dull ache in the stomach, or a hollow space spreading inside. Step 3, observe it. Does it have a specific shape, clear borders, or does it constantly shift, expanding, contracting, fading, reappearing? Step 4, silently remind yourself this emotion has no independent existence. It appears when conditions come together, and it will fade when they change. Step 5, inhale. Know you're inhaling. Exhale. Know you're exhaling. Whisper gently, I am staying with this feeling, but it doesn't define me. You don't need to push the emotion away or analyze it endlessly. Just don't identify it as me. When sadness is no longer I, it naturally finds its way out. This is the practice of emptiness in daily life. It doesn't make you cold or detached. It makes you deeper, clearer, softer with every experience. For example, when someone insults you, you can pause and see clearly. The anger is arising from several conditions: lack of sleep, harsh words, old wounds. You no longer believe I'm just a hot-tempered person. You simply see a process unfolding. When disappointment comes, you don't label yourself a failure. You recognize I'm feeling this because my expectations weren't met. When you love someone, you cherish that feeling, but you don't cling to it as if it will last forever. You no longer believe I need this person to feel complete. You see that even the most beautiful feelings are temporary and selfless. Seeing emptiness is not to deny life. It's to live more deeply without being consumed by it. To love without fear of loss. To feel without getting stuck. That insight is the first step toward freedom. Some people hesitate to approach the teaching of emptiness because they fear losing their emotions, that learning about no self will make them cold or indifferent. But that's a misunderstanding. Emptiness doesn't mean rejecting emotion. It means seeing through it with clarity and non-identification. Avoiding emotion is running away. Emptiness is staying with emotion without seeing a me inside it. When you practice seeing the interdependent, selfless nature of feelings, you no longer need to manage or eliminate them. You just see, and that seeing itself transforms them. You can try this each time an uncomfortable emotion arises. Breathe slowly, deeply. Whisper within. This emotion is not me, not mine, not self-created. Observe how it shifts. Does your heartbeat change? Your breath shorten? Sensations move or fade? Don't try to make it disappear. Just stay and witness its dissolving like a calm gatekeeper watching waves recede. In that moment, you create inner space where emotions are digested naturally, leaving no residue. Suffering begins when you believe emotions are real, solid, and personal. I am like this. But emotions are like clouds. They look big, dark, heavy, yet you can't grab one. Reach out and you'll find nothing solid there. They seem massive but have no core. They seem real but are just conditions meeting. They seem like you but are only passing phenomena. We suffer because we turn emotions into identity. I'm always angry. I'm weak. I can't control myself. But you are not what arises. You are the awareness that witnesses it arise and fade. Liberation doesn't come from killing anger, sadness, or fear. It comes from seeing deeply that none of them are your true core. When that insight stabilizes, you can live with emotions without suffering because of them. You can love without attachment, feel sorrow without sinking, be angry without destruction, be joyful without clinging. That is real freedom, not rejecting life, but living it deeply, purely, and awake. Emptiness takes nothing away from you. It simply returns a wider sky where emotions still come and go, but you remain at peace. Yet you may ask, if emotions have no true core, why do they still arise so powerfully? Why do I still lose control sometimes? That's when we must understand more clearly. Emotions have no essence, but they do have structure. They have no permanent nature, but they do have a process. To illuminate that process, the Buddha offered a precise map. The 12 links of dependent origination, the chain of emotional formation. No one suffers their whole life for a vague reason, and no one feels anger, fear, or attachment by accident. Every negative emotion, big or small, is the result of a deeply rooted process in the mind, a system that, if unseen, makes you believe, this is just my personality, my fate. This is who I am. But the Buddha, through awakened insight, revealed the exact map of this process, the teaching of the 12 links of dependent origination paticca-samuppada. This isn't abstract philosophy. It's a precise psychological map showing how mind, emotion, suffering, and rebirth continually operate in everyone every day. And if you truly understand this map, you will realize one profound truth. Emotions are not destiny. Suffering is not fate. They are processes, and any process can be stopped at some point. Here's how the 12 links unfold. 1. Ignorance avijja. Not seeing the impermanent, selfless, interdependent nature of all phenomena, the fundamental blindness. 2. Mental formations. Sankhara, habitual patterns of thought and reaction formed from past conditioning. 3. Consciousness. Vijnana, the awareness that registers an object or experience. 4. Name and form. Namarupa, mind and body, the field where awareness operates. 5. 6 sense bases. Salayatana, the 6 faculties, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind that make contact with the world. 6. Contact phassa, the meeting of sense base, object, and consciousness, for example, hearing someone's voice. 7. Feeling vedana, the immediate sensation after contact, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. 8. Craving tanha, the desire to cling to the pleasant or push away the unpleasant, the seed of suffering. 9. Clinging upadana, grasping. This feeling is mine, I can't lose it. 10. Becoming bhava. You form an identity around that emotion. I'm a sensitive person, I'm short-tempered. 11. Birth jati nu. Mental states are born, defensiveness, fear, pride, or anger. 12. Decay and death, jaramarana. The emotion fades, leaving behind traces of sorrow, lamentation, pain, and distress. It may sound abstract, but look at a simple example. Someone criticizes you, contact. You feel discomfort, feeling. You want to defend yourself or withdraw, craving, clinging. You think I'm not good enough, becoming. You relive the old emotion again. Birth suffering. Without mindfulness, you don't notice where you are in the chain. You just assume, that's how I am. And so, the inner samsara continues. But if you can pause at the link of feeling and simply see, this sensation is arising, and I don't have to hold it. The chain dissolves. You don't have to complete all 12 steps to suffer. And that's where liberation begins, with a single moment of awareness. One conscious pause can interrupt an entire cycle of pain. Just by seeing clearly, just by not continuing in ignorance, just by not identifying, and you begin to be free. Imagine you pass by someone you know. They don't greet you, just a cold glance, no words. And then, an entire samsaric chain starts. Contact. The senses receive the signal, the cold look. Consciousness. The mind recognizes something is happening. Feeling. A discomfort arises, unclear if it's sadness, anger, or disappointment. Craving. You want them to acknowledge you. You want the feeling to go away. You want to feel okay again. Clinging. The mind starts storytelling. They look down on me. They hate me. I'm not worthy. You hold those thoughts as truth. Becoming. You react from that story, act cold, withdraw, or try to regain value. A new self is formed, hurt, defensive, judgmental. Birth. A new identity is born, proud, angry, or insecure. Aging and death. From a single moment, a whole inner lifetime passes filled with pain, disconnection, and loss of peace. All from one glance, a mental lifetime just arose and ended. The root was ignorance, not seeing that these are simply dependent processes, not fixed realities, not a someone being insulted, nor a self being rejected. So if you want to break the chain of samsara, start at the 3 key points. Craving, tanha, wanting. The craving for comfort, approval, or control is the seed of attachment. Without craving, the mind stops chasing. Clinging, upadana, holding. This is when you start believing your thoughts are absolute truth. You stop seeing I'm thinking and start believing I am this. Becoming bhava, identifying. You begin to act as if you are the emotion. You no longer act from freedom, but from a self born out of feeling. The Buddha said clearly, if there is no craving, there is no clinging. Without clinging, there is no becoming. Without becoming, there is no birth. Without birth, there is no sorrow, lamentation, or inner death. Liberation doesn't begin by eliminating circumstances. It begins by seeing clearly. When you can observe this chain as it starts from a glance, a word, or a touch, you are already stepping out of samsara gently, quietly, with clarity and calm. That is the Buddha's path, and you can begin it in a single moment. You don't need to memorize all 12 links to transform your mind. Just practice these 3 simple steps, and you'll begin to dissolve the cycle of inner rebirth naturally, practically, and deeply. Step 1. When contact arises, recognize it. Someone says something unpleasant. Usually, you'd react instantly, frown, go silent, argue, or feel hurt. This time, simply pause and say inwardly, this is contact, just contact. No need to believe or resist yet. Just see that contact is happening, not truth, not threat. Step 2. When feeling arises, stay with it. After contact, feeling follows, pleasant or unpleasant. Maybe a tightness in the chest, a heat in the arms, or a dull ache in the stomach. Instead of trying to change it, just breathe with it. Just breathe. Just stay. Like a mother holding a crying child without forcing it to stop. You don't fix the feeling, you accompany it until it passes. Step 3. When craving and clinging arise, name them. The mind wants to act, to argue, explain, prove, or punish. At that very moment, whisper inwardly, this is craving arising. This is clinging taking hold. I don't have to follow. Simply recognize and don't chase. The emotion loses power. Modern therapies like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, or ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, echo the same truth. Emotions aren't destiny. They are results of a sequenced stimulus, thought, reaction. If you interrupt the sequence at perception or response, emotion cannot escalate. Buddhism taught this over 2,500 years ago. See contact, then see craving, and do not cling. That's all. Freedom doesn't come from controlling life. Freedom comes from seeing clearly what arises and not being controlled by it. That's the path of liberation, not through suppression, but through awareness. Contact is natural. As long as you live, you will experience contact. A word, a look, even silence can become contact, the first spark of reaction. But the problem isn't contact. Not that someone criticized, rejected, or hurt you. The issue is what follows, whether your mind gets pulled into craving, clinging, and becoming. Emotion arises, that's the cause. You react habitually, that's the condition. and suffering appears. That's the result. But if you are mindful, you can cut the condition. If you are aware, you can stop the result. Not by repressing emotion, but by seeing it as it is. A short contemplation to observe craving, clinging, becoming within emotion. When an emotion arises, sit still and close your eyes. Take 3 deep, slow breaths. Ask, what am I wanting right now? What am I trying to keep or push away? Name it. This is craving. Ask, what belief am I holding as truth right now? Name it. This is clinging. Ask, am I acting as if I am this feeling? Name it. This is becoming. Then smile gently and whisper, I don't need to go further. You've just stopped a whole inner samsara with one breath, seeing one mindful smile. That's wisdom appearing in everyday life, not distant, not abstract. Just by seeing clearly, you're already freer. The Buddha once said a simple line, but within it lies the key to liberation. When this is, that is. When this is not, that is not. This is the principle of dependent origination, the thread running through all deep teachings. You cannot avoid contact, because to live is to experience the world. But you can prevent craving from arising. Without craving, there's no clinging. Without clinging, there's no becoming. Without becoming, the birth and death of suffering cannot take shape. So true freedom doesn't lie in escaping circumstances, but in stopping the old reaction right at the moment of contact. Many people pray for peace, pray to let go, pray for less suffering. But if you don't see the subtle chain of contact, feeling, craving, clinging, becoming, then even hours of chanting won't free you from inner samsara. To be liberated, you don't need to do anything grand. You only need to see what is happening within you and stop at one link, just one link. Don't react the old way. Don't repeat the same painful words. Don't tense up to defend the ego. Don't rush to prove you're right. Just one mindful breath, one moment of awareness, one quiet step back, and the cycle breaks. And right there, freedom begins. Not someday in the future, but in the very moment you stop and see. Whenever you're hurt, the mind tends to whisper familiar lines. I'm sad. I've been offended. I can't take this anymore. These words sound so real, so human, yet they are the very roots of suffering. Because the moment you believe there is that is suffering, you lose awareness. You stop seeing emotion as a process and begin to see it as yourself. You no longer observe anger arising, but instead think I'm an angry person. You no longer notice sadness visiting, but believe I'm an unhappy person. And from that moment, the mind tightens around the emotion, turning it into an identity proof of your existence. But the Buddha revealed a completely different truth. There is no self behind those emotions. There is no one who owns sadness and no one who truly suffers anger. There is only a chain of dependent processes arising, abiding, and fading, which ignorance mistakes for me. This is the teaching of anatta, non-self, one of the 3 universal marks of existence, alongside anicca, impermanence, and dukkha, suffering. Non-self doesn't mean nothing exists. It means there is no fixed independent entity that can truly be called I, mine, or myself. Look closely. This body changes hour by hour. This emotion changes minute by minute. This thought changes moment by moment. So, among all these changing things, what exactly is you? If you've ever sat in mindful stillness, you've seen sadness comes and goes without needing a sad person. Anger arises and dissolves without needing anyone to be angry. They appear when conditions come together and fade when conditions fall apart. When you see this clearly, you're no longer swallowed by emotion. You still feel love and live deeply, but without identification. And in that seeing light, calm and clear true freedom begins. There was a time when psychology believed that every human carried a solid fixed self, stable across time. But deeper studies of consciousness later revealed the so-called self is not a thing, it's a process, constantly being constructed. Notice it yourself. You're not exactly the same person you were yesterday. You behave differently when hungry, when tired, when praised, or when criticized. You are a fluid version of yourself, always changing with emotion, situation, and environment. Modern psychology calls this selfing, the ongoing process of building a sense of self. That means the I you cling to is nothing more than a temporary bundle of memories, beliefs, emotions, repeated reactions. Suffering begins when you insert that I into every feeling. For example, when someone criticizes you, without understanding non-self, you think I've been insulted. I'm a victim. I must defend myself. But with the insight of non-self, you see something else. A feeling of discomfort is arising. A wave of reaction is appearing. A part of body and mind is shifting. Yet there is no fixed I in any of it, only a process moving, then fading. When you stop inserting me into that process, you no longer see yourself as a victim. You no longer need to defend. You no longer perform a hurt role just to be understood. You can practice this very simply. Next time you feel sad or angry, try this. Step 1. Instead of saying I'm sad, say, there is sadness present. Step 2. Ask softly, what shape does this sadness have? Does it stay still? Step 3. Don't label or analyze. Just breathe with the feeling like someone watching a river flow. You'll notice something remarkable. There is no self inside the sadness. There is only a phenomenon coming and going if you don't hold on to it. The more you practice, the clearer it becomes. You don't need to run away from emotion. You only need to stop inserting a self between you and the feeling. When the I dissolves, emotion becomes light as a passing cloud. Freedom begins from that seeing the insight that there is no one suffering. There is only a gentle stream of body-mind movement, then quiet stillness. This is the essence of mindfulness practice. You don't have to control emotion. You only have to stop becoming it. Emotions come, that's part of being alive. Sadness, anger, worry, fear, they're all waves rising in the ocean of mind. The problem is, when a wave rises, you don't just watch. You jump in. You stop seeing the wave, you become the wave. And from that moment, you're swept away. Mindfulness is the invitation to step back to shore, to stand beside the flowing river, to see but not to drown, to be aware without identifying, to feel without saying, "This is who I am," and that is freedom. Freedom doesn't come from never feeling sad. It comes from clearly seeing that sadness is not me. A student once came to an old Zen master and said, "Master, every time I'm rejected, I feel completely worthless." The master looked at him and asked gently, "Who is being rejected?" The student hesitated. "Me." Which me, the master smiled. "The one who feels this way?" "Then sit down," the master said softly. "Breathe and look carefully. Where is that me? Where in your body is this feeling of worthlessness? Does it have a shape, a color, an edge?" The student fell silent. Then tears came, not from pain, but from clarity. He saw the pain had no owner. It was just a wave, and he had clung to it as his identity, afraid that if he let go, he would cease to exist, and that the fear of losing the self is the root of suffering. Whenever emotion rises strongly, pause gently. Don't chase it. Just ask 3 simple awakening questions. 1. Is this feeling really me? 2. If I don't call it mine, does it still control me? 3. Can I stay and simply watch without replaying the old role? These 3 questions are like a mirror reflecting your true self back to you. And if you're brave enough to look, you'll see. There is no one inside who is suffering. Only a process arising and passing, and then you'll understand. You don't suffer because of emotion. You suffer because you believe I am the one who feels it. You don't suffer because of anger. You suffer because you cling to the identity, I'm an angry person. You don't suffer because of sadness. You suffer because you keep repeating, I'm always the one who gets left behind. And you act out that script again and again, as if no other path existed. That belief turns temporary emotions into a fixed identity, and that identity silently imprisons you in the role of a victim. You think you're being authentic, but in truth, you're just reenacting an old story. Nirvana is not far away. Nirvana is when you no longer insert I into anger. When you can feel sadness without becoming the sad one. When you stand beside your emotions and simply watch, freedom lives there in clear, silent, non-attached awareness. Not running, not pushing, not avoiding, not holding, just staying with what is. And then you realize you don't need to heal a wounded self. You only need to see clearly that the self never truly existed. Seeing is enough. Letting go is enough. Freedom begins right there. You don't need to fix your emotions. Just stop calling them me. You don't need to defeat sadness, erase anger, or overpower fear. Just recognize this is a feeling arising. It will stay for a while, and then it will go. When you can look at emotion without a self standing in the middle, claiming, grasping, labeling, you've touched the essence of non-self. From that place, suffering has nowhere to cling. Sadness may come, but there's no one left to suffer it. Anger may arise, but there's no one to become angry. And when you release the imagined self, What remains is not emptiness, but pure, quiet presence, luminous, still unshaken. You still live, but you are no longer driven by emotion. You still love, but you no longer fall into attachment. You can still touch suffering, but you are no longer its victim. This is the ground of awareness and the doorway to true inner freedom. We often think if I stop feeling sad, anxious, or angry, then I'll be at peace. But the truth doesn't lie there. Peace doesn't come from eliminating emotions. Peace comes from the ability to see emotions without being carried away by them. You don't need to get rid of your emotions. You only need enough awareness to recognize, an emotion is arising, and stop right there. No reaction, no interpretation, no identification. That is mindfulness, sati. The capacity to be present with whatever is happening without labeling, without fixing. When anger arises, an unmindful person thinks I'm angry. I'm a short-tempered person. I need to do something. And from that thought, they act, then regret, then suffer again. A mindful person, on the other hand, sees anger is arising. Heat is rising. The chest is tightening, and I am noticing it. No resistance. No indulgence. Just seeing. And that seeing is the first step toward freedom. You don't have to become a perfect person who never gets angry, worried, or sad. You only need to stop being swept away by emotions like someone lost in the sea. The unmindful person is carried by the waves. The mindful one stands on the shore watching the current flow by. And in that detached awareness, peace begins to bloom like a quiet space opening within. Not because emotions are gone, but because you are no longer their victim. In modern therapeutic approaches, such as Reiki, acceptance and commitment therapy, MBCT, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, and MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, the key is not to change emotions, but to see them with openness and without judgment. This means you don't have to do something with your emotions. You just need to stay with them in the light of awareness. When you turn on a light in a dark room, you don't have to chase away the darkness, it fades on its own. Likewise, awareness is that inner light. When it's lit, suffering, even if present, can no longer consume you as before. A young monk once asked his teacher master, "Every time someone hurts me, I can't stand it. I have to respond. If I don't, I feel weak. But afterward, I regret what I said." The teacher smiled and said, "Next time, try not doing anything. Just notice the emotion arising and don't react." So he tried. The next time he was insulted, he sat quietly. His fists clenched, his heart pounded, but he kept repeating, "This is an emotion arising. This is not me." Later he said, "I didn't do anything, but I felt stronger than ever. I saw the anger rise like a wave, then fall. And for the first time in my life, I didn't have to apologize for losing control." You see, mindfulness practice doesn't require you to meditate for 3 hours a day. You just need to return to the present moment right when the emotion arises and not let the ego interfere. Here are a few simple but powerful practices. When drinking water, pause for 3 seconds. Feel the cool water touching your lips. Just notice I am drinking water. Don't let your mind wander. When feeling tense, place your hand gently on your chest. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, whisper, "There is tension here and I am seeing it. No need to change it. Just see it." When an emotion arises, ask yourself, what is being born in me right now? What does this emotion want? Where did it come from? You don't need to answer. Just stay with the question. Because awareness doesn't come from analysis. It comes from presence. That's why the Buddha placed right mindfulness, samasati, and right concentration, sama-samadhi, as 2 essential parts of the Noble Eightfold Path. If you don't know where your mind is, what it's thinking, or what is driving it, any effort to change will just be groping in the dark. True awareness helps you. Know that suffering is here, but not identify yourself with it. See that the mind is clinging, but not label yourself weak. Feel the body's fatigue, but not turn it into an identity called "I'm someone without energy." And that clear seeing is the first step toward liberation. You don't need to fight your emotions. You don't need to fix your mind right away. Just see. The Buddha once said, "Mindfulness is the only path to liberation, because when you are truly present, you begin to choose how to live again. No longer being dragged by old emotions, no longer repeating familiar reactions, no longer pushing yourself into cycles of regret. Just one mindful breath, and you've already stepped out of your inner samsara. That is the truest strength you can ever find within yourself. When you live without awareness, you're not truly living. You're only reacting. You behave from old habits, from unhealed wounds, from unexamined thoughts, and from emotions mistaken as identity. In doing so, you unconsciously create more suffering for yourself and those around you. That is samsara, the cycle of the mind happening moment to moment. You don't have to wait for another lifetime to be reborn. Just one day lived without awareness, and you've already fallen into the loop. Arise, suffer, react, arise again. Many people misunderstand mindfulness as constantly checking themselves, constantly controlling every thought or action. But that's not it. Mindfulness simply means gently staying with what is happening. No judgment, no fixing, no interference. You allow the body and mind to reveal themselves and to settle in the light of awareness. You're like someone sitting on a mountaintop. You can't stop the wind, but you can see it and not be blown away. You won't become enlightened overnight, but if you practice a little each day, you'll notice subtle yet profound changes. You're less carried away by anger. You're less reactive to criticism. You begin to distinguish between thoughts and truth, and no longer believe everything the mind says. You pause before saying something that could hurt someone. All these transformations don't come from force or rigid discipline. They come from the light of awareness, a gentle yet enduring light. If you know how to nurture it daily, you don't need to do anything extraordinary. Just make sure that whenever you're living, you're truly present in that life. And when that happens, samsara begins to crack open. Freedom begins to find its way in. You don't need to become emotionless to be at peace. You don't need to force yourself to always be positive. You only need the light of awareness to clearly see what's happening and stop running. When you can sit in the middle of a storm of emotions without being swept away, when you can see your suffering and still smile because you understand it, that's when true freedom begins. But you may still wonder, even when I'm aware, the emotion keeps coming back. It feels persistent, like it won't leave me. That's because you haven't yet seen one essential truth. Every emotion, every thought, every mental state is impermanent. And it's this impermanence that holds the key to stop clinging, stop fearing, and stop believing that you will always be this way. Many people drown in suffering simply because they believe this feeling will last forever. A vague sadness, an unnamed loneliness, a broken relationship all suddenly become an invisible sentence they impose on themselves. I will always be like this. And so they tighten up to endure. Or they try to control everything, their emotions, others' life itself, all for one reason: fear. They fear living forever in a dark, endless state with no way out. But have you ever stopped and really looked? No emotion has ever lasted forever. No sorrow has ever stayed the same. No joy has ever remained unchanged. Even you are no longer the same person you were a year ago, and that is not a tragedy. It is the truth. And seeing that truth clearly is the path to freedom, the teaching of impermanence. Anicca, as the Buddha explained, is not meant to make you pessimistic, it is meant to awaken you. When you don't see impermanence, you cling to what you have. You get attached to a person, an emotion, an outcome. You fear losing the familiar, so you try to control, to hold on, to make things stay the same. But impermanence doesn't stop just because you're afraid. Everything continues to change whether you agree or not. When you truly see impermanence, not intellectually, but with deep insight, you stop clinging. Not because you're indifferent, but because you understand. There's nothing to hold, so there's nothing to lose. No one lasts forever, so every moment becomes more precious. No emotion is fixed, so you're no longer its victim. Understanding impermanence doesn't make you cold, it makes you live more deeply, love more sincerely, and release unrealistic expectations. A hug today could be the last. A simple conversation could be an awakening moment. A sad moment could be a doorway back to yourself. Contemplating impermanence is an invitation to return to this very moment where everything is alive, changing and passing through. You don't need to hold. You just need to be present and love deeply. The Buddha once said, "All conditioned phenomena are impermanent." When one sees this with wisdom, one becomes free from attachment. When free from attachment, the mind becomes peaceful. When the mind is peaceful, one realizes nirvana. These are not words only for the enlightened. They are words for you, for me, for anyone living within real human emotions. When you see sadness as impermanent, you no longer need to suppress it. When you see anger as impermanent, you no longer need to resist it. When you see joy as impermanent, you no longer need to cling to it. Simply seeing clearly softens the mind, making it gentler, wider, and more grateful for every living moment. Neuroscientists have also discovered something that echoes this teaching: an emotion, if neither clung to nor suppressed, lasts on average only 90 seconds, just a minute and a half. If you simply observe it without reacting, analyzing or replaying the story, the emotion fades on its own like a short rain shower. But when you cling to it by replaying it, retelling it, reliving it, you stretch that one moment into days, months, even a lifetime. Suffering doesn't lie in emotion itself, but in not seeing the impermanent nature of emotion. There's a small story. A mother poured tea for her son and smiled, saying, "My child, when you hold your cup, remember the tea is cooling." At the time, the son didn't understand, but years later, as life slowly took away everything familiar, he finally did. He realized everything we love is cooling, whether we notice it or not. Every evening with loved ones is one evening less. Every conversation is a moment that will never repeat. Every time we love brings us one step closer to parting. And so, we should not fear impermanence. We should be grateful for it. Because if everything were permanent, we would never learn to appreciate. It is impermanence that teaches us to love more carefully, speak more gently, live more deeply, and be fully present for every moment we still have. Here's a simple practice you can begin today. Each morning, silently whisper, "Today is a new day, and it will never come again." Just that sentence, if you truly feel, it is enough to make you live more fully. When you're angry, ask yourself, how long will this feeling really last? Is it truly standing still? You'll notice that even strong anger shifts moment to moment, never fixed. When you're happy, smile and gently let go. This joy will also pass, so I'll live fully in it, but I won't hold it. In that way, you keep the joy without turning it into the fear of losing it. You don't need to do anything grand to live deeply. You just need to see clearly that everything is changing. Many people say they are trying to let go, to forget to forgive, to move past someone or something. But they can't, because deep down they still believe this will stay with me forever. Only when you truly see at the root that everything is moving, dissolving, transforming, then the mind lets go naturally. No forcing, no explaining, no suppressing, just no reason to hold anymore. We suffer not because of circumstances, but because of our misunderstandings, believing someone will be ours forever, believing a feeling is real and unchanging, believing a relationship, a job, or an image is a fixed part of who we are. But the truth is, everything is changing, even when you don't notice. The person you loved yesterday is already different today. And you, each morning you wake, are not the same as you were yesterday. When you understand this, you become lighter. Your heart softens, and love, instead of being an attachment, becomes open space, a space where whoever you love with kindness, not possession, because you know everything is passing, and the only thing you truly have is this moment. And if you can live fully in this moment, you are already living in freedom. If everything is changing, then what doesn't change? The answer isn't found in others, in memories, or in plans. It's within you, in the awareness that sees change. Everything comes and goes. Emotions come and go. Joy, sorrow, loved ones, loss, all pass through. But awareness, the one that clearly sees all change, does not come and go. It is silent yet alive, still yet vast. It cannot be described in words, but you can touch it whenever you step back and simply see. When you live from that awareness, you are no longer carried by emotions. You no longer need to hold anyone. You no longer need to be right. You no longer need others to change so you can feel whole. You live without grasping. You love without binding. You let go, yet remain deeply present, and in that love becomes complete. Not because of fear of loss, not because of need, but because it arises naturally, like the sun shining without needing to be invited. Seeing impermanence, you don't lose anything. You return. You return to the deepest part of yourself, the one that quietly knows everything and is never carried away by anything. Someone once asked a Zen master, "I've been meditating, but my mind still thinks, worries, and remembers so many things. I can't find stillness." The Zen master smiled. "My child, sitting still doesn't mean the mind stops thinking. Sitting still means you no longer chase what arises. Stillness isn't emptiness. It's the full return to what simply is. Your mind is like a lake. Normally, without noticing, you keep throwing stones into it. Expectations, worries, anger, fear, regrets. And the surface ripples again and again until you forget that the nature of water is clarity. Meditation isn't an effort to make the lake calm. Meditation is stopping, letting be, not stirring anymore. And when you stop resisting, stillness returns on its own. You don't need to control the mind. You don't need to force it to be empty. Just sit and let everything reveal itself as it is. In that letting go, clarity begins to appear. Just as the moon cannot reflect on disturbed water, the mind cannot see clearly when it is agitated. In modern practices like MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, the essence is also pause and observe. Stopping is not passive. Stopping means creating space for the mind to rest, recover, and heal. You can't heal by doing more, trying harder, or thinking deeper. You heal by simplifying, by coming home to yourself, by breathing with the present moment. And when you are quiet enough, the mind reveals itself. You no longer have to search for peace, because peace comes the moment you stop demanding it. On a snowy mountain peak, hidden deep within a pine forest, stood an ancient monastery. Each dawn before sunrise, an old monk would strike the bell 3 times, not quickly, not mechanically, but slowly and deeply, as if the sound came from the heart of the sky. One morning, a young monk asked curiously, "Master, why does your bell sound so different? Is there a secret? The old monk smiled gently and said, I don't strike it. I just breathe. And when the mind is still, the bell rings by itself. That answer left the young monk speechless. He suddenly understood. Stillness isn't about forcing the mind to stop or the body to freeze. Stillness is when action arises from a peaceful heart, not from habit, hurry, or desire. You don't need to go to a mountain or hide in a monastery to find such stillness. You can begin right now in the smallest pauses of your day. Before checking your phone, pause for 3 seconds. Breathe. Know what you're about to do. When someone speaks, listen with inner silence without interrupting, preparing to reply, or debating. When washing dishes, walking, or making tea, let it become a silent ritual. No rush, no distraction, no chasing thoughts. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. Stillness means doing with awareness, acting, without being driven by old patterns, being present, without being pulled away. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught, when the mind is not distracted, it sees clearly. When the mind is still, wisdom arises. You don't need to analyze your pain. You don't need to force understanding. Just sit, breathe deeply, and let the light of awareness shine through. You'll see emotions come and go like clouds across the open sky. And in that moment, wisdom arises not from thought, but from clear, gentle, effortless seeing. Stillness, it turns out, is not a goal. It's the foundation for living, feeling, and loving more completely. If you've never meditated before, that's okay. You can start today with something simple. Find a quiet spot. It doesn't need to be sacred, just somewhere you won't be disturbed for a few minutes. Sit down. Rest your hands gently on your knees. Close your eyes. Breathe naturally, no control needed. Simply know I am breathing. When you notice the mind wandering to work, to someone, to something that just happened, don't blame yourself. Just whisper, the mind has gone. Then gently return to the breath. You don't need the mind to be perfectly still. You don't need to be good at meditation. You don't need to reach any special state. Just be here with your breath, with yourself, and you've already begun. 5 minutes a day like this, and you're entering a still world. You've never known a quiet space within, without noise, struggle, or haste. Many people say stillness is only for those who have time, but the truth is the opposite. It's the busy, the overwhelmed, the exhausted who need stillness the most. Stillness is not withdrawal from life. It's not escape. Stillness simply means before you act, you pause, you return, and ask, what am I really seeking? What is driving me right now? What am I lacking inside? When you are still, you won't speak words that hurt. You won't do things you'll regret. You won't chase what you don't truly need. From that place, your actions are no longer reactions, they are the fruit of understanding. Many people fear stillness because when it's quiet, old memories surface. Unnamed pains return. You face yourself without the screens, the noise, the roles. But that's when the mind is being invited home. Not to escape, but to embrace. Memories arise to be seen. Emotions emerge to be healed. Stillness is not cold emptiness. It is the true voice of your deepest consciousness, where there are no roles to play, no proving, no striving to please the world. You've run enough. You've tried enough. Now it's time to stop. No more explaining. No more effort. Just sit, breathe, and let everything fall back into place. When you stop stirring, the lake of the mind clears. When it clears, it reflects light. And that light is your inner wisdom. When wisdom shines, you'll know where to go, what to do, what to let go of, and what to keep. Stillness doesn't pull you away from life. It helps you live more deeply, more fully, without being swept away by it. So you've walked with me through this journey from emotional reaction to understanding the nature of mind, from familiar suffering to fresh seeing, from attachment to gentle release, from inner noise to the ground of stillness. And if there's one thing I hope you carry with you after all this, it is this: your mind is already clear. You don't need to add more, only to let go. Let go of overthinking. Let go of resistance. Let go of holding. Let go of fear. And then peace will no longer be something to search for, but something you return to. No analysis needed. No striving. Just sit and stop stirring. Throughout this journey, you haven't been searching for more. You've simply paused and begun to see. The mind, when undisturbed, is like a clear lake. The truth of life, of yourself, of every emotion appears naturally, needing no effort from you. Have you felt that moment yet? When the inner noise begins to fade, the breath softens, and you realize there's nothing to fix. You just need to be here. Stillness isn't a goal. It's the ground from which everything moves naturally. When you stop trying to make the mind peaceful, you see peace was already there. That's why you meditate, not to change states, but to return to your original state, where the mind neither clings to noise nor rejects it. And now, as you drift into sleep, remember, you don't need to sleep deeply. You just need to let go. Let go of the last thought. Let go of the need to understand. Let go even of the effort to let go. When you stop interfering, your body knows how to rest. Your mind knows how to restore itself. And in that stillness, sleep comes like a friend, gentle, kind, and safe enough to lean on. Thank you for joining Buddhism Seeds on this journey. If at any point you felt your breath soften or your mind stop spiraling as before, share that moment in the comments. Because sometimes one mindful sentence from you can be the light for someone still lost in the dark. And if you wish to continue exploring deeper layers of stillness within, subscribe to Buddhism Seeds. Share this video with a friend who needs it, and leave a few words below. I read every one of them. Now, let the night embrace you. Let your breath slowly carry you away from all repeating thoughts. And know this, you no longer need to try to be at peace, because stillness has always been there, waiting for you to return. May you have a peaceful sleep. See you in the next video.